Continuing in our quick start, we're going to look at subroutines now. If you're looking for how to do subroutines in Perl, for simplicity, for modularity, for readability, this is how you do subroutines in Perl. Our third count lines example, again, we're counting the lines in a file, and this time it's a more complete program, and we've broken up the functionality into several different subroutines. Personally, I like to use a main subroutine for a main entry point, and oftentimes I'll just do it like this. At the top of the file, I've got my use strict warnings, my file IO, and then I just call the main function. And using this syntax here, that actually calls the main function with the command line arguments as function arguments. So if you're familiar with C, this does something similar to how that works, or Java, or any command line oriented language. This makes it work kind of like you would expect. And so here we have our main subroutine, and the first argument is the file name. So if you were to call it the command line and say count lines 3 and the file name, then it would bring that in. And if you didn't call it, you can use this logical OR, and it will assign instead linesfile.txt. And then the count we get from our count lines function, and so that's all encapsulated. It's all hidden in that count lines function. It makes it very simple from the main subroutine point of view, and then you simply report the results. And so this little 3-line main, it tells you at a glance exactly what's going on. And then you can look at the count lines function, and I have a little comment at the top that says here's how you call it and here's what it returns. I think that's a great habit to get into as you write subroutines. And then here's the body of it. This is where all the work is done. We read in the file name, we give an error if we don't have a file name, we open the file, we give an error if we cannot open the file, and here's a nice way to do that. This is simpler than how we did it in the last example using the logical OR. This is a very low precedence OR that Perl has that makes it very easy to do things like this. You go and you create the instance of the object, in this case open the file, and if that didn't work, you just give an error message. It's a very nice, simple syntax for that. Now we count the lines with a while loop, and again, this is exactly the same as we did in the last example, except we're using the postfix while, which is something that is fairly unique to Perl. There aren't a lot of languages that have a syntax like this. And so it allows you to do this entire loop on one line, and you just say count while you're getting lines. It's very easy to read and easy to look at and easy to code. And then we return the results. We have a couple of other little subroutines here, which are just useful things that I like to do. I have one called message, which just prints a string with a new line. In Perl 5.10, there's a new keyword called say, which does this same thing. Unfortunately, Perl 5.10 is not widely enough deployed to be able to really use those new features in production and expect them to work on anybody else's computer. And so this way that I've been doing this for years using my little message subroutine, and a similar one for error, where I print the $0 is the file name of the Perl script, and then $E for the error message, which we get from the shift here, and simply print an error string and then exit. And so when we have an error, it prints the error message and exits. And so that makes all of these other things very easy. We can use our error function here, we can use the error function here, and we can use the message function here just to print out our status message that there's so many lines in the file. And so it makes the whole program very readable, and it puts the functionality of the different things that we're doing in their own nice little self-contained little containers like this one here for counting the lines. So yes, the script is longer than our other versions, and in my opinion, it's far superior. It's got better error reporting and better modularity, and it's going to be a whole lot easier for you to work with something like this using this kind of a modular structured programming style. So let's go ahead and run it, and we'll run it right here. And we see there are 50 lines in the text file. And if we go and change the file name like we've tried before, and I'll save that and run again, we see that we get an error message. In this case, we're using the error subroutine. And so let's go ahead and go back to the other view where we can see all of this at once. In the error subroutine, you see that we have this $0 here, and that's what prints out all of this, and that's our entire path name to the program we're running. So we can see this error is coming from countlines3.pl, and the error says cannot open that file because there's no such file or directory. So we'll go ahead and we'll put our file name back and save and run again, and we get the 50 lines in the text file. So that is the more modular, structured, more modern programming technique version using subroutines. And now you have the basics of Perl. You have the basics if you're an experienced programmer and you're just looking for the basics, you've got that. In the rest of the course, we'll be going through the details of how all of these different things work and all of the different features of the Perl programming language.